the majority of the Republican Party still didn't believe the results of the last election. So when he says that, like, this is a threat to the country,
and they're allowed to believe that. They're allowed to.
I mean,
people are allowed to. Yeah, they're allowed to believe that. The people online, the young men online, were doing the work for Trump. No matter what he said, we were doing the work to get him elected, you know? And that's really what won him the election, was the online media and the rise of independent media, online media, not necessarily politicians. It's why Trump can say crazy things and Biden can be, you know, senile, and it doesn't matter to people.
But I think it does matter. I think it says something that when Trump says crazy things, people go out and do crazy shit. Like, nobody's citing Biden.
We'll trace that, though. Like, what has he said that has led to someone doing something?
Well, like, he said the 2020 election was rigged. He said that mail-in ballots were fake. He brought a ton of people to the Capitol. They went and did some crazy shit. There was the recent guy who, the kid who live streamed himself running over those two girls, who followed like a ton of like Trump and Charlie Kirk shit, and he said that these two girls were like making fun of Charlie Kirk's death. In terms of like,
I don't know about that. I know
that's always a secret defense.
No, I really don't. Seriously, I don't know about that one.
I understand, but I feel like that's a big part of the problem. I feel like conservatives only ever hear about the things that like are the most relevant to them, and then
no, like I'm online, I'm on Twitter every day. I watch like a lot of video. I watch like a lot of videos.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Everyone here is
but I'm
probably
saying
on
that
Twitter
like if
too.
I were to like say that like I'm on Twitter every day, like we're seeing different things unless we're going out explicitly looking for contradictory evidence, right?
But I'm talking like the big name stories. Like my first example was a Charlie Kirk assassination.
Yeah, but the big name stories are what conservatives want to be the big name stories, right?
Maybe. Like I don't know.
Do you agree
What's
that it was?
supposed to mean?
So I would say that it was unacceptable. I would say this is an instantaneous impeachment, like exile from the country moment when Donald Trump was asked by is it Caitlin Collins? Is that her name?
I don't.
Yes.
I don't know
when
who
she
that
was
is.
I think it was her that asked the question. Well, she said, you wanted to lower the flag to half-staff for Charlie Kirk. Do you think in retrospect that it's kind of in poor taste that you didn't do this for the Hortmans when they were killed in Minnesota and Trump didn't even know about it? Like, that seems exceptionally crazy to me, no?
And Trump did. This is my first time hearing this.
I
story.
know.
No, I'm serious.
Stop.
Yeah.
Calm down. You fuckers don't know about shit unless I watch on stream either, okay? So fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers. I know how this shit works, okay?
So I just don't feel comfortable commenting on something I don't really know the whole case for, you know.
Let's assume that was true. Would that be a disgraceful, disgusting moment?
That he didn't lower at half mast?
No, that he didn't even acknowledge that he knew about it. He was like, I don't know, who's that?
That would be bad. But like
Did you ever see the video after the shooting happened where somebody asked him outside the plane, they were like, are you going to call, Tim Walz and talk to him? And he was like, that guy's a whack job or whatever. I'm not going to call him or say anything.
No.
Okay. If he did say that, that would be kind of bad too, though, right?
That was too fast. I didn't.
If he did say that, though, that would be bad, right?
What did you say? I didn't
that when he was asked, I think outside of Air Force One, they were like, "Are you going to call Tim Walz or have a conversation or reach out to the governor of Minnesota or anything?" And Trump was like, "That Walz is a whack job. I'm not going to talk to him. Whatever."
Yeah. I would say that's bad. I would say that's bad. But
and then just real quick, and then you go to your point. Would you say that those two things together, those two things together are worse than anything that Biden has said in the totality of his presidency about Republicans, or any individual instance of violence ever, and you can include Obama there too, and Clinton, and the other.
I don't know if I would say that. I would
like,
have
can
to,
you think
I would
of
have
one
to go
worse?
back.
Yeah, just think of one. Maybe not off the top of your head, you can't. But like, can you think of one worse? Like, what's the worst thing that like Biden ever said about a?
Well, I'm not like necessarily like a huge Biden critic or anything. I'm just saying like I know he was escalating rhetoric towards conservatives. Saying
Biden was.
Yeah, like what was it?
You're gonna bring up the speech.
Oh yeah. It's probably the speech. What was that after? Do you remember?
The MAGA Republicans ones that they're a threat to the country.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Is it the one with the red background where he looks like Darth Vader?
Yes, it is. Yeah. It is the red background. Mm-hmm. It is the red background.
So in that speech, like right after he says that, so Republicans always quote that one line, but he says, "I don't think that all Republicans are MAGA Republicans. I don't even think most of them are. I've worked with a lot of them in Congress, blah, blah, blah." But the thing that he's talking about, and I don't know how else he's supposed to address this, is the fact that the majority of the Republican Party still didn't believe the results of the last election. So when he says that, like, this is a threat to the country,
and they're allowed to believe that. They're allowed to.
I mean,
people are allowed to. Yeah, they're allowed to believe that.
Well, no, hold on. I'm just.
What do you mean when I don't have to respond to this? But what do you mean? Do I believe it or not?
No, I didn't ask you if you believe it. I'm just saying that like that it. Well, if people are allowed to believe that, then that means that Biden should be allowed to believe that they're a threat to the country, right?
If people
are allowed to believe that the election
he's allowed to believe it. I'm just using this as an example of him inciting rhetoric, which is kind of a liberal talking point of like, let's focus on who's inciting the rhetoric. And so I'm analyzing who's inciting the rhetoric, and we keep pointing at instances before the Kirk assassination, and before that happened was the Trump assassination attempts. And I remember your rhetoric on this too. And so
that guy was also
that's
a registered Republican, right?
Damning. That guy was a registered Republican?
Both of them were, right?
Well, I don't know if that necessarily matters, actually.
Well, but if they were a registered left-leaning person, do you think that would matter? If they were a registered Democrat?
I think it's enough evidence to say if they're taking out one of the top guys or the president, that means they don't like him.
Well, what about the evidence that
And we live in a two-party
what about
system.
the assassin for the Hortmans? That wasn't enough evidence there that person and the list of all the other
I'm not
Democrats.
saying there is evidence there. We're working with two different rules. You're saying we should demand that the presidents denounce political violence or condemn it on the world stage. I'm saying we should condemn online media influencers because they're in charge of the culture now.
Yeah, but I think the right takes their notes
impact.
from Trump.
I'm just going to disagree with that.
Can you give me any examples where there are huge?
They don't take notes from Trump. Like
when
the
Trump says
right-wing
something, they'll always
culture
defend
was
it.
built independently, which resulted in Trump getting elected.
Yeah, but now Trump works with it, and there's like a top-down like structure where when Trump says something, everyone else is saying it, and everybody supports it.
Like presidents can influence culture from the top down, but it's mostly just in terms of we have the authority to enforce what the culture is saying.
Well, then why did all Republicans seem to not care as much about the Epstein files?
I don't know how that's related.
Well, because if that's what that seemed like they really cared about it for a while, but why did they stop? It's because Trump told them to stop because he said it was a loser issue, and then everybody took notes from him, and eventually that's cascaded through the party. And
my whole point is like you can condemn individual Republicans for not if they were big on Epstein files, and then that changed because they didn't want it to get found out. I think you can criticize individuals there. That's my whole paradigm is like we shouldn't be holding people responsible. We should just hold the people. I mean, the only people responsible would be the online media influencers for the culture and the rhetoric. But like you could just criticize individuals. You could criticize Charlie Kirk for what he said. It doesn't matter.
I don't understand why we think that like the president of the United States can't have a large influence on the culture.
No, I'm not saying he can't.
Then shouldn't he be
I'm just
disavowing
saying
violence?
nowadays, which is different than history, it's the culture is run independently. It's through independent media.
Okay, I disagree, but we don't even have to agree on that point. Shouldn't Trump disavow violence?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so it's a moral failing of his to not disavow violence.
Yep.
And it's a greater moral failing for him to say that violence on his side is somewhat justified.
Violence on his side is somewhat. I don't know about that.
So when he was on Fox and Friends, they asked him about like violence on the left or the radical violence, and he says that when it was something I'm paraphrasing, but he says like when the leftists do radical violence, it's like trans Tifa or whatever stuff, but when the right does radical violence, it's in response to the left being crazy. So like, in a way, he made it sound like right-wing radical violence was righteous, and
I kind of believe that. I kind of agree with that. Like when we trace it back, and I've been following you a long time. I've been following politics a long time. When we trace it back, the first instance for me of like excusing political violence on a big scale was BLM Antifa, and that happened before J6. That happened before J6. So I'm like, I saw a ton of people excusing it, bailout funds for the rioters, and someone at the end of it, towards the end of it, someone was shot in cold blood. A conservative was shot in cold blood about that, and there wasn't any denouncing of violence there. So it is important to go to the first infraction. I'm curious to know what your first infraction.
Well, probably shots fired in the Revolutionary War or something. I mean, like, there's been violence for a lot of U.S. history, right?
Yeah.
But I'm when I look at the BLM stuff, I feel like there's a difference in that a lot of this is like decentralized. It sucks because conservatives make so many excuses for Trump because of COVID, but they never make excuses for Democrats on COVID, which is whatever, I guess. But like everybody was crazy around the fucking BLM riot time, right? Everybody's inside. We all watched George Floyd die for 9 minutes and just people fucking lose their minds. I think a lot of the BLM like rioting stuff, I think was bad. Destroying neighborhoods, all this shit, I think is always bad. I think Democrats paid electoral prices for it, and I think a lot of them, when Biden came into office, he had to denounce and say that like violence is unacceptable, guys. We can't riot. It's not okay.
But why do you think it's important to say on both sides if we know where the side that it came from?
Well, because violence does come from the right, and we should all want.
But
all
I'm asking you for the first example where it came from the right that was before BLM Antifa.
What do you mean?
The first example of like political violence that came from the right that was before BLM Antifa. You know, like in my lifetime.
What about it? Or are you asking for like an example of it?
Because you get into a revenge cycle. The first time that infraction's made and politicians don't denounce it and everyone supports it, and we can get into BLM Antifa, but like the first time that's made, then the other side has the prisoner's dilemma of like, okay, well, we can't just be condemning, you know, our side.
But the Democrats have been condemning their side over and over again, and everybody.
Well, you're kind of just making the all lives matter argument of like, oh, we're condemning
You guys made the all lives matter.
Well, you're making it now. You're saying we need to condemn all violence, even if you knew it came from one side.
Sure, I think we should all condemn all violence. I think that's a pretty
But
acceptable.
that is kind of just an arbitrary rule that you created.
That's not. I
Like,
think
for
that's.
us
I
to
think it's a
follow,
really good
for us
rule
to
that
follow.
everybody should condemn political violence.
Before you can be principled about that, like, because that's really what's happening is you're saying before
I am
can make
principled
any,
about it.
be-
I think
before
that-
I can make any statement on Charlie Kirk, it's like I need you.
I need
guys
to know that I have a
and
partner
I
in
need
civility.
And I need to ask
Yeah.
President Trump.
Yeah.
I need to ask him, as if that would do anything. I need to ask him to turn down the rhetoric before you, Destiny, make a.
Yeah, that's a principled position. It's better than Trump's, right?